Good evening and welcome to CVR English News Channel. This is Sudhakar Sharma with the big story of the day. According to the latest political observation, the gap between the state government in AP and the state election commissioner is widening with each passing day. The tussle between the election commissioner and the government in Andhra Pradesh is taking a curious turn, as in the latest happening, two of the AP cabinet ministers appealing to the speaker to move privilege motion against the state election commissioner Nimagada Ramesh Kumar for the baseless and derogatory comments on them, bringing disrespect for the entire legislative body as such. So this is a kind of move which the two ministers have taken to move the kind of privilege motion against the state election commissioner. And the whole state is also taking note of the observations which are really taking place, the course of actions which are to unfold in the coming days. It is being watched by the entire state with a very keen eye, taking note of the notices served by two cabinet ministers to move privilege motion against state election commissioner Nimagada Ramesh Kumar. Andhra Pradesh Legislative Assembly Speaker Thammineni Sitaram is learned to have referred the matter to the Privileges Committee to examine the gravity of the charges made by the SEC against the ministers in his letter addressed to the governor and take necessary action. And well, the ministers Pediredi Ramchandra Reddy, Minister of Panchayat Raj and Rural Development, and Botsa Satyanarayana, Municipal Administration and Urban Development Ministers, they sent separate notices to the AP Legislative Assembly Speaker to allow them to move privilege motion against the Election Commissioner. After deliberation, the Speaker reportedly referred the issue to the Privileges Committee and suggested it to initiate measures after going through the notices served by the ministers, because the Speaker Tamineni really felt that something derogatory was made against the ministers in the letter which was addressed to the governor by the Election Commissioner. So he felt that some action should be, disciplinary action should be moved against the Election Commissioner. And as to the real cause of rift between the two ministers and the Election Commissioner, we find that in the notices the ministers had explained that the State Election Commissioner made several castigating remarks which are libelous in nature and far from the truth. In the letter reportedly written to him by the ACC to the governor, the tone and tenor of the letter is intimidating, they said, adding that the content of the same is being circulated on social media, which is really bringing about a kind of derogatory and effect, and it is causing a kind of disrespect to the entire AP Legislative Council. And the two ministers felt that their self-respect was really at stake. The ministers took exception to a statement reportedly by the SCC that they had crossed the Lakshmana Rekha and violated the moral and model code of conduct, alleging that the Ramesh Kumar had made several baseless allegations with an ulterior motive to degrade them as MLAs and also as representatives of their particular place and ministers in the public eye. Pedireddy and Bocha said making allegations without proofs amounts to breach of privilege. So they really wanted some kind of disciplinary action against the state election commissioner. And the two ministers who are in question really felt that it was a premeditative move. It was a kind of premeditative move by the state election commissioner to really damage their image. The allegations have been framed deliberately to defame the legislators in the state so as to meet the purpose he has been intending to happen. That is, he wanted the elections to go on, and there was a kind of resistance by the state government. So this tussle was really going on in the state of Andhra Pradesh, and the ministers felt that this was being deliberately done by the state election commissioner to malign their image, because they were really trying to point out this particular thing. The reference to a similar case in Maharashtra government has been made, in which Maharashtra state election commissioner Nandalal was also sentenced. Interestingly, a case study relating to Maharashtra is also getting referred to and getting highlighted these days. The case was something like this. The Maharashtra government has been made. The MHACC Nandlal was sentenced to 2 days of simple imprisonment for contempt of the Legislative House. The situation in AP seems to be heading for a similar situation under more or less the same circumstances. For the reference case also, there was a kind of clear-cut disharmony between the State Election Commissioner and the government for quite some time. And in the historical context, at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic in March 2020, Andhra Pradesh CM Jagan Mohan Reddy lashed out at the State Election Commissioner Ramesh Kumar for arbitrarily postponing of the rural and urban local body elections, claiming that his predecessor Chandrababu Naidu had made a kind of agreement with this. So he really had a kind of question with Nimagada Ramesh Kumar, saying that it was a question of collusion with Chandrababu Naidu that led to Ramesh Kumar not accepting the elections to take place at the time. At the time, the State Election Commission felt that the ongoing risk of this COVID pandemic might really affect the proceedings of the elections on a normal pace, and it rejected the move. And now the standpoints seem to be getting reversed. During the vaccination for COVID-19, when it just took off, when State Election Commissioner announced his intention to conduct elections, the same was vehemently opposed by the government. The state government headed by CM Jagan, citing the vaccination as the reason for seeking postponement of the same, and thus began the open standoff between the government and the SEC. So this is again, you see that there is a kind of rift going on between the State Election Commissioner and the state government, because when one wanted to go for the election, the other denied, and now when the other wanted to go for the elections, the opposition is coming from the opposition party. And if we look at the course of the events that are really unfolding, the Privilege Committee met today virtually upon the recommendations of the House Speaker Thammineni Veerabhadraman to cope the matter, and they have decided to review the whole case.